I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I always be around when I need some loving, baby. No one else.
Yeah. Let you down. Playing all my melodies.
Take me to your heart.
I belong to you.
Take me to your soul. No one else.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Podcasters Live. I am super stoked to talk about this subject. I'm telling you, I was so gassed about this topic tonight. I wanted to talk about it yesterday. Like I was chomping at the bit to actually talk about this and go live yesterday. This is how loaded for bear I am right now. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about tonight. Got a lot of stuff to get through tonight, and if you're here tonight, if you have a question about anything that we kind of talk about tonight, please make sure you put the comments and your questions, and also just kind of your perspective, because as we go through tonight, we're going to be learning a lot of different things based off of my experience in podcasting since 2007. So we're excited to talk to you tonight about 21 podcasting tips, things that you need to implement right now. And we'll be right back. Oh yeah. Lots to get to tonight. The topic for tonight, boom, 21 podcast tips to use right now. We're going to be talking about them, and we're going to be kind of go over all of them. But before we do that, we just want to say hello to everybody that's over there on LinkedIn. We thank you guys for watching. Make sure you put your comments and questions in the comment section, and we'll make sure we pull them up. Over on Facebook, we already have a few people that are actually out there already. So welcome people over on Facebook. We're going to get to the comments and things like that here shortly as well. And then last but not least, dude, YouTube has been blowing up for us. We've joined several different communities, international communities and other communities, and they've actually kind of like what we talk about. So we have been blowing up. So make sure you check us out over there on YouTube at Podcasters Live as well. And then as you go through, wrong one. As you, there it is. Which one is it? There you go. As you go through tonight, as you go through and listening to everything that we talk about tonight, if you are in one of these areas in your life, in your podcasting career, if you're thinking about that your content isn't where it needs to be, you feel stuck right now with your journey, even with your live streaming, whatever it may be, we are here to help you. And that's why we named the name of the company and named the show Podcasters Live. Our focus and our goal is, of course, help authors, leaders, and experts understand how to grow their platform utilizing the powerful combination of live streaming and podcasting, of which I have tons of experience in as well too. So if you are thinking about jumpstarting your podcast or your live stream, we have what we call our 90-minute power sessions, which is one-on-one. And that is just myself and you talking about your content, talking about where you are, and figuring out where you need to go. One of the major things that we find is that people don't have the patience with certain aspects of their content, and they expect immediate results. Podcasting is the long tail game. So the goal that we focus in on is helping you create content that is actually appealing to your audience, so that way you can actually create content and feel good about what you put out there, and understanding that you need to be consistent with the content that you put out there. If you are thinking about, well, Steve, I'm not particularly sure if I have a concept or an idea, we have an entire coaching program that takes you from concept to creation. One of the biggest things that happens in podcasting is about 50% of podcasts actually fail, and a large number of that is due to pod fade. They don't even make it to episode 7. We help you create an entire season, which is 12 episodes, and we take you through the entire process. So that way, you know what, you don't even have to worry about pod fade. You actually kind of leapfrog pod fade into your podcast and live streaming journey on your road to success. So connect with us. You will see a QR code kind of throughout tonight. So make sure that you use your phone or use your smartphone to connect with us via the app as well too. Lastly, this is kind of meta. This is a little meta right here. This is a little meta. I'm gonna see. I don't know if I can do it or not. There you go. Is that right? That's kind of weird. That is super weird. I will be speaking for the second year at Marketing for the Culture, and it is a conference that's actually going to take place in Houston, Texas this year. Last year it was in Atlanta. It is an amazing conference. Michelle Ngomi, who is actually the founder of the African American Market Association, she has put that on for the last 2 years, and it has been growing exponentially. So I feel very fortunate to actually be able to be speaking at it again for the second year. And I will be talking about how to beat imposter syndrome, our upcoming book, and we will be talking about that at the conference. I'm super stoked. I'm super excited about it. I'm a little nervous. I've been dealing with a little bit of imposter syndrome, kind of thinking about it. So you know what? Guess what? I'm gonna exercise those demons, and we're gonna go out to Houston, and we're gonna rock it out. So you see the QR code there that actually takes you right to the website. If you are in Houston, or if you're thinking about actually attending the summit, please make sure you go ahead and hit that QR code and go ahead and get your tickets there as well. All right, so. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and get into this. I want to preface and some of this stuff tonight, because I think the things that I'm going to talk about right here, things that I'm going to say here, deserve mentioning. Okay, everything that we talk about tonight, it's in no particular order, right? It's in no particular order. There's not like a hierarchy of like, oh, this is the best one and this is the worst one. No, it's not even about that. These are just things that I have jotted down and I've been thinking about since I've been podcasting, and we are going to break down each and every one of them today. So if you have any questions about them, please make sure evaluate, reassess, and execute now. And I wanted to put that in there is because as we go through tonight, you're going to probably find a couple of tips, and you're going to be like, dude, okay, that's awesome. I like that one, right? Some of them you can evaluate and you can reassess what you're currently doing and then execute if you need to right now. Some of these are going to be things that you may want to jot down and that you want to actually just kind of hold off because you may not be there yet. And you're like, okay, that's a good one. That's dope. I like that one, but I may need to execute this one first. You can always do better. I put that in here. It doesn't matter what you're currently doing. Even if I give you a tip that you're like, Steve, that's whack, I'm already doing that. Listen to me. You can always do better. You can always do better. So when you're thinking about these tips, don't think about them in the context like, dude, I'm already doing them. Think about them like, how well am I actually doing it, right? It's almost similar to someone who, has gear and they want to, well, I already got that, I got that camera or whatever, but I want to get this other camera. Well, dude, have you even maximized what you're doing first, right? Crush it where you are, and then move forward. Half the time we're kind of like we're almost kind of crushing it, but we're not really doing it. So that's why I put that here. You can always do better. And this last point came, I was listening to Sounds Profitable, a podcast, and Tom Webster, I think that's his name. And he talked about podcasting, and he said that podcasting was born out of disruption. And I love that. I love that because when I actually started my podcasting in 2007, I actually realized that we were trying to create something that wasn't actually out there yet. We were trying to create a voice. We were trying to create content that wasn't out there. We were sort of disrupting the norm. There were things that were taking place that was putting out there, but it wasn't what we wanted to hear. So we created it. So when you start to think about your podcast, remember why you started yours, right? Did you start it because there wasn't something that was out there that you wanted to hear? 9 times out of 10, that's exactly why you did it, right? You realize that, man, okay, hold on for a second. I'm not hearing this, right? Or I'm not hearing this, right? With my other podcast, Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, it was 100% born out of disruption, 100%. There was nobody out there, there still isn't anybody out there talking about the retail leader, the everyday retail leader. Everybody's talking about the hierarchy, high-mindedness of the retail industry, but who's talking about the person that actually has to execute all the initiatives on a day-to-day basis? Nobody. Retail Leadership is the one that's actually out there doing it right now, okay? Podcasters Live was born out of a need that we saw that podcasters needed to understand how to discover their podcast or utilize another platform in order to build discoverability so that their podcast can be consumed somewhere else. Just because you are engaging your audience on a live stream doesn't necessarily mean that that they have to stay there. The goal is to actually talk about your podcast and move them over to possibly the audio podcast, so that way they can consume your content there as well. All right, man, I can go on and on and on for a long period of time with all of this. But I'm going to try to be nice and and be good. So someone said, "Oh man, you made the cut." Who was that? Who's that? Somebody. So they made the cut. They made the cut for the for the intro reel. So I appreciate that, man. What's going on, Nick Noseworthy? How are you doing, man? I love that. See, I like the worthy part. The noseworthy part just kind of messes me up. I'm just messing around. And I've been knowing Nick for years. And then of course, oh yeah, that's right. 90s TV dads for the win. What an awesome event. I'm sad. I'm so sad that you're not going to be. I know you're not going to be there this year. And I am super depressed. Everybody's super depressed that Cher's not going to be there this year. But it's going to be an amazing event. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. We in the building. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing? I'm not going to play your song tonight. I got something else for you tonight.
Yes, sir.
That's yours right there. So I don't know if you could tell, I got my for those of you, I'm a Knicks fan, and I haven't watched a lot of it this year, but you can tell in the background I got my orange and blue going on. That's for that's for all the Nick haters that are out there. So I got my orange and blue in my background specifically for that tonight. All right. So we talked about the context of everything that we're going to be doing tonight. All right. Let's get into this. I'm going to be doing this in threes because there's 21 to get through. Stop me if there's a point and you're like, dude, okay, could you explain that a little bit more? Also, if what I'm saying, if you like what I'm saying, if you resonate with what I'm saying tonight, put dope in the comments, right? When I make a point and that you really like, it's like, yo, that's dope. Put hashtag dope in the comments tonight. We're gonna do something a little different tonight as well. All right, cool. Let me see. I'm gonna make sure I did all of my little points. All right, cool. Number one, develop content pillars. Like I said, this isn't in any order. You got to develop content pillars. What we see so much in podcasting nowadays is people are just grabbing the mic and they're just talking, and they don't really have a rhyme or reason to their podcast. They don't have a structure to their podcast. The reason I like content pillars is because as you're going through the content creation process, you actually have a filter. Your pillars are your filter that you create. If whatever you're talking about or want to talk about does not align through those filters, then guess what? Don't do it. The tendency is that we start to go for trends and we start to see something that's super hot and we start to go and go after it. But guess what? If they don't go through your content pillars, I'm telling you, don't do it. Because guess what happens? Now you start to lose credibility over time because you're trend chasing, right? Or you're chasing trends. I'm going to say it better that way. You're chasing trends. And in the podcast industry, it's not a good thing for you to chase any trends. It's for you to stay true to who you are. And the more you're able to do that is through having content pillars. Set goals for your podcast. So I like this one as it relates to gear, as it relates to upgrading your equipment as well, too, right? Now, you can, of course, have download goals, right? I'm not going to touch that one tonight. I have a whole thing around the idea around downloads versus consumption, right? I got a whole mess of concepts and ideas around that. But the idea around setting goals is for you to actually have markers for success for yourself, right? How many of you have set a goal for your podcast, right? Well, one of the major goals that you probably want to have is a published time, is a published date. But even before that, you may want to set a record date, right? So we when I say set goals for your podcast, doesn't necessarily mean downloads. It means, you know what? I have to set a weekly goal of actually creating the content. I have to set a weekly goal of actually recording that thing and then publishing consistently. So when you start to think about your goals, think about them in a different way, not just from a download standpoint, but everything that leads up to the download. And I got another thing that we're working on is around the idea around the post record of your podcast, right? Once you record your podcast and you upload it, man, that's just half the battle. The other part of that is what we call like the post-production. A lot of people hate that. We surveyed a whole bunch of people in various podcasting groups, and we will be talking about, the results for that as well. Number 3, invest in quality equipment whenever possible. Maximize your current equipment first, right? Audio, because this is podcasting, and I know there's the visual aspect of podcasting that everybody's talking about as well, but the audio side of it is 100% for me. And this is just Steve Worthy speaking here. Is 100% one of the core things that you need to focus in on. Even if you are starting and doing a video podcast first, right? You still need great audio, period, right? And so making sure that you are upgrading when possible, when you learn how to maximize your initial mic, and even your, whether your DAW, what you record in, right? I started with Audacity, and then as I got more and more serious about my podcast, I moved over to Hindenburg Pro. It's one of the best recording softwares that's out there. It's non-destructive. It's pretty pricey, but it's been serving me well ever since I kind of started podcasting again. So invest in quality equipment whenever possible. Whenever possible. And then Jared Jones has buy better lights before you upgrade your camera. Yes. Lighting is everything on you. Listen to me. I know people who actually have an older model camera. When I first started live streaming, I had a A5100. That camera was probably around $300 or $400, right? That's first world creative problems. But it served me well. The color quality was dope. However, the lighting, I focused in on lighting. Once I started to go live, I focused on live streaming. After I started researching the cameras, like even before I bought the A5100, I was using a webcam. I bought quality lighting first and foremost, and then I upgraded as well too. So cool. And Nick has I'm going to start teaching types of podcasts with different subjects based on the core subjects. Content pillars are a great idea. 100%, man. 100%. Excellent. All right. So let's go through. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read them all first, and then go backtrack. So 4, record in a quiet, sound-treated room if possible. Create a compelling and attention-grabbing title. Write detailed show notes. So record in a sound-treated space if possible. When I started back recording my podcast, it was in a basement office. It wasn't treated. I had a condenser mic, and you can hear everything that was being said. I mean, you can hear every little noise. So it forced me to actually get up super early in the morning to record while everybody was asleep in order for me to actually, record in peace. So one of the first things that I do with any client that we talk about as they start to talk about a podcast is 2 things. We talk about the concept, but we also talk about if they have a good enough concept. The next thing we talk about is where are you going to be recording your podcast? Where are you going to be recording it? Do you have a closet? Right? Do you have a smaller room, right? That's actually going to help with reverb, right? Do you have a carpet, right? Couple of those things that are just super important that we don't necessarily think about will help the audio quality, far better than if we are recording on a wooden floor, because we feel like the room is nice and we don't want to mess it up. But guess what? It is going to pick up everything. So if you possibly can, record in a very quiet space. Create a compelling, attention-grabbing title. So, my guys over in the UK always say, do what it says on the tin, right? So your podcast, your titles, right? Don't be clever with the title of your podcast, what you're going to call your podcast, right? Great example. When I started back podcasting in 2017, I started with The Worthy Podcast. Silliest name in the book. It was just all over the place. No one really knew what I was talking about with The Worthy Podcast. So when I niched down, retail leadership with Steve Worthy. Guess what I talk about? Retail leadership with Steve Worthy. Podcasters Live. Guess what I talk about? Podcasters who want to go live and live streamers who want to podcast. Bada bing, bada boom. It's it, right? Don't be clever. No one needs a clever title, right? Even if it's like clickbaitish or whatever, if it's actually what you're talking about, then that's a different story. But do what it says on the tin. So right when I say compelling, I mean it has to actually just do what you say that you're going to do when it comes to your title. Don't get clever with your title. Write detailed show notes. And here's, I will be 100% honest with this. I was not a fan of show notes. I couldn't stand show notes. I was just like, this is just ridiculous. Can't people just want to listen like to what I got to say? Man, I'm telling you, when you start podcasting, and even when you start live streaming and doing a live podcast or a video podcast, right? So show notes aren't just for the audio podcast. It's also descriptions for your video and audio podcast, making sure that you are writing down notes about whatever it is that you're talking about. One of the best ways to actually get more people to listen to your podcast, and I probably should have put this here too, is to create bookmarks, right? A lot of the software nowadays that you record into actually can automatically create bookmarks for you when once you export it out, right? So you can actually already have those created. There's also a lot of AI software, Swell.ai. There's another one that I'm using called Dub.media. When you upload your audio content, it will spit out a whole bunch of different pieces of content just from that. Whether it is a transcript, it could be blog posts, but the other thing that it will spit out is going to be your bookmarks. It'll actually show you and have the timestamps, if you will, bookmarks timestamps. It will actually have those already there for you. So when it comes to actually uploading for your show notes, it is one of the best tools to have. And here's the thing, and I know I wasn't a fan of those initially at first, because what happens is that you think that, well, when I put the timestamps in there, well, they're just going to click to the parts that they like. Well, dude, at least they're clicking to the parts that they like, right? I'm seriously, even on videos on YouTube, I truly love. So if any of you who ever watched any YouTube videos and you hover over the video, you can see the bar. There's like a long line, right? And in some of the videos, you will see like little cut marks, right? Those are timestamps. And so when you hover over those timestamps, you can actually see exactly what they're talking about within those little windows. I love that. I love it, because sometimes, especially if they're talking about gear or something like that, I probably already heard half of it, and then I just want to get to the good part, right? Can we get to the good part, right? And I love that. So when you start to think about your show notes, think about it in the context of actually having bookmarks and timestamps there as well. All right. If you are tracking with me tonight, let me know you are tracking. If you have any questions about any of the things that we are talking about, make sure you put it into your comments as well, so we can make sure I answer any of that stuff too. Hey, how you doing in there? Good to see you. Let me make sure I got your thing up here. You have got the gift of gab, as we say in Ireland. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. All right. So, is this resonating with you guys? Is any of this stuff, helpful to you? Is it causing you to kind of maybe not rethink, but possibly just kind of maybe like, ooh, I never thought about that way, or maybe I'm doing it, but I'm maybe half doing it. So as we continue on, think about it. Think about everything that I'm talking about here tonight, and let me know. You can let me know, or you can let yourself know if any of this stuff is resonating with you. All right, so we're gonna go 7, 8, and 9. Edit your audio, promote your podcast on social media, and host guests. Right? They all seem super simple. They all seem super, super simple, but they're not. Edit your audio. I was when I was preparing for this, and I wrote it down because there was a lot of people that I ran into when I started back podcasting, that I heard that a lot of people were not editing their podcast. They were just kind of like recording and then just kind of uploading. And I've heard a whole bunch of podcasts like that, right? I've heard a whole bunch of podcasts where people haven't edited the podcast. And what I mean by edit your podcast, I'm not saying take out every and ah That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually, talking about an edit where you could possibly take that, or you can take the pauses out, or you can make it flow properly. I know I got to do one of these because it just came to me, and I'm thinking about it because I did a live stream on it when I lived in Maryland, and it's about editing your podcast. Sometimes, and my editor, I do it to him now. I'll be recording, a podcast, and I'll be probably 75% of the way through it, and I say something like that just comes to me, and it's like super dope, and I'll say in the edit, like, Mark, dude, what I just said was dope. I need you to put that in the front. I need you to put this like at the very beginning, right? I need you to do this, right? And I'm saying all of this to him while I'm editing it because I know he's going to listen to it. And we end up having a better product when we do it that way, instead of me just saying like, okay, that was awesome, let's just keep it there. No, what I just said is going to have more impact if I put it up in the front. Or this point right here that I just said, you know what? Something else just came to me, so let's move this to the back, right? So it's work. I know it's work. And that's why a lot of people don't edit their podcasts. But that's the other reason why a lot of people don't listen to people's podcasts, is because they don't do a proper job editing and telling the story with your podcast. So when it may sound simple, edit your podcast, edit your audio, but you have to take the time to do it. And I have another point that I'm gonna be bringing up that's super associated with edit your audio, and it's gonna blow your mind. And you also want to stay tuned for the last 2 points that I have to make too. The last two, I said there was no order, but I did save the last 2 points, the last 2 best points for last. So you got to make sure you stay tuned for that. All right, promote your podcast on social media. And I should have edited this, and I should have said promote your podcast on the right, social media. Now, when you first start out with your podcast, you are probably trying to figure out where your audience is. And I understand. So you tend to flood the market, meaning the social media platforms. And part of what you do with your podcast and I'm laughing because I've done this and I still see it to this day to people. Hey, I just finished episode 17 on promote your podcast on social media. Go listen. Dude, no one cares. I'm just saying it. Like, no one cares unless it's your audience, unless you have a built-in audience. No one cares. Like, when you promote on social media and when you promote your podcast in general, period, right? The goal is that you are helping them solve a problem, that you are helping them understand a little bit more about a topic or a subject matter that without you, they would have been left in the dark, right? So the goal is for you to create and promote in that context. So promotion is not just telling everybody that you got a brand, you just uploaded your podcast. It's like, hey, I uploaded this episode, and this is why you should listen to this episode, right? That makes sense? Does that make sense? How many of you have seen that out there, on social media? Just finished episode number 17, how to host a guest, right? Okay, that's great, but that's not really helping me. So make sure when you promote your podcast that you are promoting it properly and that you are promoting it on the right social platform. I want to talk about that here to kind of elaborate on that. It takes time for you to figure out where your audience is. Here's the thing. I know everybody named Mama's on TikTok, right? Everybody named Mama's on TikTok. And a lot of people will say, hey, you need to be on TikTok. I am not knocking TikTok. I am not knocking any social media platform. I'm just utilizing this as an example. You have to determine whether or not you have the bandwidth to create content and upload on a consistent basis with TikTok, IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, Discord, Twitter, right? you have to determine if your audience are on all of those platforms or if they're just on one or two, right? The other argument that a lot of people will make, well, it's great for SEO. I don't know, and I'm not an SEO expert, but I've read studies, and as it relates to, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it does wholeheartedly help you with SEO by being on each and every platform. From a promotion standpoint, right? I also think that targeting your audience is more important than anything else, right? Targeting your content, I think it was just like number one, we talked about content pillars. So if you're going to promote on social media, making sure that your content pillars align, and that if your content pillars align, then hopefully you kind of know where your audience is. Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, right? While we have an IG account, there are people that we focus in on IG, and our IG is actually pretty decent. Our audience is actually kind of in Facebook, but the majority of it is on LinkedIn, right? Podcasters Live, right? YouTube, Facebook, right? IG, we got a decent and it's growing following on IG, but on YouTube, Facebook, and then also on LinkedIn, they're actually growing. And the reason why we are on certain platforms is because the audience that we're actually catering to. So making sure that you're promoting your podcast on the right social media platform is super important. And I want to make sure I get this up here. I am not a podcaster, but I logged into my Anchor platform, which is now Spotify, and it now lets you upload videos and extracts the video too. What is that? What's that all about? Can you now choose to watch and listen? So, okay. You know what? I know Anchor's down Spotify. So yes, you can actually, view watch your podcast on Spotify and on other listening apps as well, too. Right. So I use a listening app called Pocket Cast. I love it. It's the user interface is amazing. The user experience is awesome. I love it. On that app, I'm actually able to, if someone uploads a podcast that also has the video, I actually can upload, or I can watch the video on there as well. So with Spotify, of course, they're competing right now, if you will, with YouTube to make sure from a podcasting standpoint that they're covering both bases, the audio and, of course, the actual video side of things as well, too. All right, cool. Number nine. We still got some time. I'm actually making pretty decent time tonight. Let me know if you guys are tracking with this. If you have any more questions or thoughts or comments, please make sure, because I want to make sure that we are answering any questions and leaving no stone unturned tonight. If you want me to go in a little deeper on one of these as I talk about them, as you see them pop up, then make sure you go ahead and do that for me, and I have no problem with doing that. Hosts, guests. So here's the thing. Not every podcaster or even podcast should probably, host guests, because there's a skill associated with hosting a guest. There's a skill with it. There's a process, and you want to make sure that the guests that you actually have on there are solid. But the reason why I put this in as a tip for you to kind of go and look at is because if there's somebody out there that has a very similar audience or an adjacent audience, right? Then you want to make sure you got to kind of look at them to possibly be on your show. Now, and the reason I'm making this point about the adjacent audience is because Cher Jones pulled my card. I was talking to her about this person that kept sending me messages about being on my show, my Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy show. And I was like, dude, no, they're not the right fit. They're not the right fit, da-da-da. And she said, well, what do they do? And I was like, well, HR, da-da-da. And I went deeper. So, well, hey, hold it for a second. they may actually be in a good adjacency for what you talk about. And yeah, and I did some more due diligence, and I did find out that they are, a good source, a good person, and a good, they have a good message that my audience will resonate on Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. So I reached out to him, and we're going to try to figure out how to get on my show. So, and the other reason I do this, or you should do this, is because not just your audience will get some value out of it, but also now you are being exposed to their audience. So that's one of the major reasons why you're doing it. It is not, interview swaps. I am not a fan of interviews. I'm just not a fan of interview swaps. Like, you interview me and I interview you, and we have completely different markets. We have completely different audiences. I'm just not a fan of that. I want you to get really focused and on the guests that you actually will have on your show. Don't just have anybody. Now, here's I'm going to say this because then I'm talking out the side of my neck. Again, I apologize. When you first start out, you will interview anybody. I'm just saying, because you got to get your reps up. You got to get your reps up, right? Just like basketball or whatever it is, whatever sport or something like that, interviewing and hosting is a sport, and you got to get your reps up. So you will invariably and start interviewing any and everybody until you get to the point where it's like, dude, that person they just added no value, right? I did that. I did that, and I had a person on my show, and I was interviewing them, and I was talking to them, and they were talking, and the entire time I had this kind of look on my face like this. Because I was like, why in the hell did I bring this person on my show? Like, they are not adding any value. They may sound great, but they're just not adding any value. And it was just a horrible interview. I was not inspired. So at that point in time, I realized that I had to make a change. And so will you once you kind of get to that point as well, too. All right. Let me make sure we got Ender's last comment up. I uploaded the video and added long description and added links to my website and SEO links. Sounds like a good opportunity to get in early with the video, 100%. I wish I didn't have such a transparent face when you interviews like that. I know. Oh gosh. And then I was on, and just to kind of further this whole hosting and interview thing. And then I was on an interview, and the interviewer just kept making it all about them. I have in my, listen to me, man. I never run out of content. I will never run out of content. Your boy here has content for years, period. I have content for years. I will never run out of content. So that's why I keep saying, when something triggers in me, I'm like, okay, I've already written that down, but I want to do something. And I know my man Doc Rock has I think he has a small course on being a guest, but I'm going to be doing something around being a guest, and that's super important. And also how to be a host. I was on a podcast, and the host is continually, every time I said something, and it's dope answers. I know they were dope. And he would just kind of like brush them off, and he would just start talking about what they did and what he did and what he would do, right? You don't do that. You know, if I had Ender on my show and I'm talking to him about what he's doing, dude, I'm gonna go deeper into why does he think like that? What was your process, right? You know, what was the outcome, right? That's what you do, right? You don't turn it into, if vendor says something and I'm just like, great, that's a great answer, and then but here's what we would do in this situation. Oh, that just gets my goat. I can't stand it. All right, let's rock and roll. Oh, okay. 10, 11, and 12. Listen to your podcast before publishing. Build a community. Leverage pre and mid rolls. All right. This one, number 10. Oh, I'm going to spend some time on it. I ain't going to spend a lot of time because I'm just going to let you know this right now. A large majority of people do not listen to their podcast even after it's been edited, and they don't listen to the podcast and they publish it. So even if you have an editor and they edit your podcast, you have to listen to your podcast before you publish it. I know people are like, people do that? Some people are praying on. It's like, people do. Yes, some people do that. I have done it before. I have trusted when I had it when I stopped editing my podcast, and I found an editor, and he did a really good job, really good job. It was a couple episodes that I sent him the stuff, and we had a really good process, and he sent me the stuff back, and I just uploaded it, and I didn't listen to it. And I had some people like, dude, this episode, you had some issues with this and that. So what were you talking about? And I go back and listen to it, and I'm like, oh my God, right? Had a whole bunch of downloads on this thing, but the editing issues that were prevalent in there were vast. So I had to go back, and he had to make the changes, and I re-uploaded the episode. Listen to your podcast before you publish it. If you are one of those individuals, I hate the sound of my voice. Man, you're in the wrong business. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like to see my videos, like even things like this. I don't like to see my video afterwards. I may sometimes go back and look at something, but a lot of times I don't go back and like look at the videos, and I'm like, So I understand what you're saying. I understand how you feel, but you got to go back and listen to your podcast before you publish it, right? Would you publish a YouTube video before you looked at it, right? Would you give a presentation without practicing? Because that's really what this is, right? Because you're listening to something, and you are before you're about to send it out to the masses. You want to make sure that it's of quality, right? So I can go all day on that one too. Number 11, build a community by having a website, connecting with your audience, while you're actually engaging with your podcast, your live stream, or whatever it may be. You got to make sure that you are building a community with it. The tendency that we hear, or the thing we hear a lot, is my podcast isn't growing. No one's listening to my podcast. Because you have to build a community around your podcast. Nowadays, there's too much noise. There is too much noise. 5, 6, 7 years ago, podcasts were just blowing up, and then of course over the pandemic, they just got exponentially like crazy, right? And everybody's mom and everybody's nana was making a podcast, right? So we got all this noise that's out there. Like, you have to cut through that noise. And the way you do that is by creating a community around your content, right? That takes time. It takes the various platforms. It takes being consistent. It takes narrowing your focus. It takes creating content pillars. All these things that your specific community is going to want to hear, right? It is not just about creating the podcast anymore, putting it out there and expecting everybody and their mom to come running to listen to it. You got to create a community around your podcast. All right, I can go deep on that one too, in so many ways. But the community side of your podcast is something that I don't see a lot of podcasters do. And as we help podcasters with their content, one of the core things that we focus in on in it's a 5 module kind of coaching program is that number 3, we talk about community. We talk about how to build a community around your content. What are some of the key problems that your community is dealing with that your content helps address? What are some of the obstacles that they may be facing that your content will actually help solve for them, or they can move forward, or they can address by using your content, right? I have been very fortunate with Retail Leadership Podcast, where several people have reached out. I even had one guy reach out and say, he said, Steve, whenever I bring new people on board or I promote somebody, he had a list of 5 of my episodes that he tells them to listen to. Now that's dope. That's dope. Like, every time he's promoting somebody to the next level, whether it's a store manager to district manager or a team leader to store manager, he's like, I have them listen to this to these 5 different episodes. It's one's about the 5 competencies of leadership, the 5 levels of leadership, law of connection, and he ran them off to me. But that's dope. That's awesome. I didn't ask him to do that, right? But that's community. You are creating content so that people will want to listen to it, and they will actually do something with your content, right? Just this last Saturday, we had Corey from Black Podcasters Association on, and we were talking about that. Oh my gosh, I think it was around 30, maybe 35% of people actually do something. When a podcaster says something about a product, a concept, or an idea, whatever, people actually, about 33% take action on that. They make a lifestyle change based on what you say. So when you start talking about building a community, it's super important that you build a community around your content. All right. Oh, man, this is another one a lot of people don't do. And that's okay. You know what? Because after tonight, you guys are going to be rocking and rolling with all of these. There's no more excuses. No more excuses. No excuses. I should have put that down there at the very beginning. Like, no excuses after tonight, right? Once you hear something, now you become responsible for it. So I want to hear. I'm out there going to be wanting to hear better content and better ideas and processes based on all of these tips that we're talking about tonight. Leverage the pre and mid rolls. The majority of podcasting hosts actually have the ability now to add a pre-roll. A pre-roll, if you're unfamiliar with that, a pre-roll is just the ability for you to add a little message at the very beginning of your podcast, right? How many of you listen to a podcast and a person will it's a host read ad and they're promoting insurance and they're promoting a product or whatever it may be. That's a pre-roll. That's a pre-recorded snippet or message that they have uploaded into their podcasting host, and they say, hey, I want this to be a pre-roll. So guess what? Every time an episode plays, that pre-roll occurs. It's the same thing with the mid-roll, right? With the mid-roll, a lot of the companies are using algorithms and AI to actually find a very succinct spot within your podcast in order to actually upload that mid-roll. The mid-roll is the same thing as it relates to a messaging standpoint, right? It could be a commercial. It could be you promoting your own content. It could be you talking about an event. Here's why I say leverage this pre and mid-roll. The vast majority of podcasters want to get monetized, right? They want to get monetized. I didn't even put that in there as a tip because that's a whole nother subject in and of itself. The only way that I feel that you're going to get monetized is by showing people that you're monetizable. I don't even know if that's a word or not. You let me know if that's a word or not, but it sounds pretty dope, right? Monetizable. I love that. I just made that up. Hashtag monetizable. You gotta prove that you are. If you like the word monetizable, go ahead, put that in the chat and spell it for me because I don't know. It's just stuck to my head right now. Monetizable. Hashtag monetizable. You have to prove that you are. And the way that you do that is by utilizing the pre and the mid-roll to create those spaces, that potential sponsors can see that, oh man, my man James is actually, promoting, promoting his book or promoting his course, and he's doing a host read ad. He's reading about his product, or he may have found a small sponsor. So now he's actually able to put that person in, in the pre and maybe the mid roll. If you have your own product or services that you provide, right? just like where is it at? Oh my gosh. Just like this. This is a I did a pre-roll, right? I did it at the very beginning, right? This could be a mid-roll right now, me talking about my course, me talking about my coaching program. Same thing as it relates to your podcast. It gives you the opportunity to show people that you're monetizable. I don't care, James. You know that's you know you're going to use that word. You know you're going to use that word on your next show. And I don't even know if I want you to give me credit for that because I don't even know if it's a word or not, but that's okay. So leverage your pre and mid rolls as much as you possibly can. If you have a really good host, right? We're going to be doing a show on, top 5 podcasting hosts. If you have a really good host, the best podcasting hosts do a couple things. And this is just my little diatribe real quick. They have a podcast themselves. You got to have a podcast. If you're a podcast, I know this is just Steve, because you got to stay abreast of what's happening. You got to be able to utilize all this tech that you're talking about within your podcasting, your hosting software, right? I use Buzzsprout. They have like 2 or 3 different podcasts. They also have a YouTube channel, things like that. But they actually utilize all these different things. So make sure that your host actually has a podcast and that they are staying up on all the different things that are going on in the industry: the pre, the mid roll, the end roll, tags, location tags. And we can have a whole discussion around all of those different things. Think about tags. If you are a YouTuber, the tags that you use for your YouTube. Same thing that takes place from an audio standpoint when you do that as well too. All right, cool. Oh man, let me see. Oh, we got to, man. Okay, all right. We got time. I don't care. I'm rocking and rolling with all of these, man. You guys are gonna leave tonight with some loaded for bear. If you are tracking with me, put in the comments that you're tracking with me. If you have a question, other than James, anybody other than James can ask me any question that they want. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, Nick. I think I missed you. My apologies because I was getting trolled by James. I want to be able to build a community so that I can help prepare to understand my subject matter broader, and then to have them use that knowledge. That sounds dope. Dope. I appreciate it, Jim. I appreciate it, Nick. Nick said that was dope. That was dope. And then also, Sherry says she's tracking. James, are you tracking? Or what you doing? Are you under the squat rack? You always under the squat rack. All right, here we go. 13, 14, 15. Take listeners' feedback and review seriously. Engage with your audience. Do not be afraid to try new things. You got to take the feedback that you receive from your listeners. You got to take the feedback. Most people don't even ask for the feedback, right? Some people don't even ask for the feedback, right? I have I was pressed for time to upload and release an episode, and I said, you know what? This is before ChatGPT even came out. I did a podcast outline, and I was pressed for time. And what I did was I actually I don't script my podcast, meaning that I don't read word for word. I'm a bullet point person, and then once I see the bullet point, boom, I'm gone. But I was pressed for time, and I read the podcast, got it out, bada bing, bada boom, done. Got a call from my man Walter, and he was like, "Dude, yo, what's going on?" I was like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I listened to the episode," and I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "I was like, yeah, what was it about?" And he's like, "Dude, it was whack. It was horrible." I was like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" He literally said that to me. He said it was whack and it was horrible. He said, "You sound like you were reading," and I was like, "It's because I was." And I got the feedback the next day, went in, re-recorded it, uploaded it back, right? I took the feedback. I took the feedback. I have received so much feedback because I asked for the feedback, around content, around whatever it is that I'm doing. But, here's the thing. I say this all the time when I was in leadership in retail. I would say this to my team all the time. If you ask for feedback and people give you feedback and you don't do anything with it, it's the biggest slap in the face. No one will trust you. No one will trust you. I'm not saying that you have to do everything that they say with the feedback, but you need to take the feedback into consideration and seeing what you can extrapolate out of that and utilize it for yourself so that you can grow and that you can become better. It's the same thing here. If people give you feedback on an episode or the structure of your podcast or whatever it may be, right, and you don't do anything with it, and you just keep pumping out the same content, right, over time, people are going to lose trust. No one's going to want it. Like, dude, I left him a rating and review, and I told him that he needs to adjust this. Well, he's not even doing it. So you got to make sure you listen to that feedback. Engage with your audience. So it's easy for me to engage with my audience here, right? I see the comments. I see everybody's, talking to me, and people are saying that they're tracking, and I greatly appreciate that. And my man in there said, monetizable to utilize something of value as a source of profit. Thank you, my guy. I'm gonna give you the horn again one more time. Thank you for that. There you go, James. See, what are you talking about? Engage with your audience. Now, if you've heard me for any period of time talking about podcasting, I always talk about people can they can hear a smile. So when you are recording a podcast and you are really into it, and you are smiling and you're laughing and you're just kind of being yourself, man, it's so good to hear a podcast like that, or even a live stream, where people are engaging and they you can tell they really like what they're doing, right? And that is a form of engagement with your audience because they are engaging in the fact that you are enjoying what you're doing, right? That comes across on the audio and also on video, right? So when I say engage with your audience, that means that you have to sort of kind of like be yourself, when you are behind this mic or when you're behind this camera. The other part of engaging your audience, if it's audio only, is asking a question just like I'm asking. Like, how many of you, and I always say it like this, and I will say, like, how many of you have ever dealt with this? Like, raise your hand, like, except for if you're driving, right? Little things like that. Little, like, is that you? Have you ever experienced that? Or do you know somebody like that, right? I know you guys are thinking about that person right now in your mind, right? Haven't you done this before, right? All these questions, that's engaging your audience. That's making them think while you, from an audio standpoint, about whatever it is that you're talking about. The other thing, and I know I did radio, and one of the worst things you can have is dead air. But the other thing is that when you say something awesome in a podcast episode and you pause for a second, it creates drama. That's engaging the audience because now they're like, what's we going to say next, right? The other way that you can engage your audience is by changing your tone. Changing the tone of your voice allows you to engage your audience differently than if it was something else. But if you change your tone and become a little more somber, now guess what? Now you're changing, right? So engaging your audience, there is a art to this, right? That's why I call podcasting a craft, right? So engaging your audience is not just about monotone across the board. It's about creating a story with your voice. All right, Let me know if you're tracking with that or not. All right, number 15. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try new things. Change up. Don't change your content pillars. You can change the way that you deliver them if you want to, and try it out. Nobody's gonna care. I'm telling you this right now. People think that people care too much about what they're saying, and like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't change up the content, or I can't change up the structure. People they're so used to it. Well, guess what? Say it. Hey, you know what? I'm trying something new today. I'm gonna try something. Let me know. Let me know what you think about. Let me know what you think about. You can use a pre-roll for that too. Hey, this episode I'm about to drop right now. Hey, I tried something a little bit different, right? The content is still the same, but we tried something a little different. Let me know what you think about the way that we presented this episode right now. Done, right? That's the biggest hurdle, is that people feel that people will think too much about what they are trying to change. And in essence, they really don't care. But more importantly, if your audience is loyal and you try something different, they may be like, oh man, that's awesome. I liked how you said that. I like when you did that, right? So try something new. Try a new thing with your podcast. All right. Here we go. Man, 16, 17, 18. We're almost done. You guys are tracking with me, and hopefully I know you guys are getting some value out of all of this, man. I'm getting value talking about it. Let me tell you what. If you don't like what you talk about on your podcast, on your live stream, man, listen to me. If it was nobody here listening, I would still be rocking this out, and I would still be giving the same energy, right? I love this stuff. I love what I'm talking about. I love helping you guys and seeing you guys win, period. 16, 17, 18. Use the right social media platform. So there's a little redundancy there. 17, collaborate with other podcasters and create a niche. So I guess I should have edited this process, right? So there's a little redundancy, right? Use the right social media platform. And that's just that kind of speaks for itself. But that takes some time for you to kind of figure out what the right social media platform is for yourself. Once again, we can't go off of the trends, right? I have tried to do TikTok. I've tried. I've been super inconsistent with it. Now, when I did try it, I did get some traction from it. It was cool. But I just don't feel my audience. Maybe my audience is there. I just haven't stuck with it. So utilizing the right platform, you have to make sure that it's something that you want to invest your time in. Maybe I should invest my time in the TikTok. Maybe I should. Maybe I will gain some traction out of it, right? I just don't feel like I have the bandwidth to actually do that, right? So I have to find the bandwidth to do it. Who knows, right? You have to figure this out for yourself, which one it is that you actually want to have your content on for the majority of your content, so that you can make sure that you're tapping into the right audience. Collaborate with other podcasters. The podcasting industry is probably one of the most helpful industries that I have ever seen. When I came back into podcasting after a little bit of a hiatus, I was very nervous because I was in retail leadership and in all these different organizations where it's hyper competitive, super competitive, and I am a competitive person. You look at the word competitor, you will see my face, right? I'm kind of high key, but I'm kind of low key competitor, like I am. And so when I came into podcasting, I felt that nobody's gonna listen, nobody's gonna help, right? Nobody's gonna help me kind of like figure out what's the best DAW that I need to podcast. No one's gonna help me kind of with the mic, right? And completely wrong. And I'm so happy to say that I was wrong about that. I have so much help, so many people, so much feedback. Hey, could you listen to this podcast episode? Let me know your thoughts, right? That's how my man Jamie, that was here not last weekend, but the weekend before last. The Jamie who came over from the UK, right? Met him 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And then that was our first time meeting in real life. But he was one of the guys, and even to this day, I'll send him something, and he'll send me something, and we collaborate that way, right? On helping each other get better. But then there's also the collaboration, like James Hicks, who's in the and Corey and Cher. We've all collaborated on each other's content, right? And because we at the end of the day, we want to see people win, right? There are some people out there that are jerks. I'm just going to put it out there, right? But you have to be mindful. And you have to be you have to be very thoughtful around who you share your stuff with, right? And so the other side around competition, and competition makes you better. It just does. It just does. Right? I'm a grown man. I don't care what you can suspend your judgment, or you can judge me all you want. I don't care. I'm a grown man and I play FIFA. I love football. And I know in America we call it soccer. I call it football because that's what the rest of the world calls it. And I am a purist and I love football. My boys won today, 3-0, Man City. Yes, indeed. And I play football. And every season, and I buy the new FIFA every year. Every year I buy the new one. And you have to learn the different tips and tricks and all this other stuff. And I sometimes, and I haven't done it recently, but I would play online, and I would play different people from different countries. And I remember the one time I was playing somebody, and my daughter, I remember she had came down, and she was like, you know, who you playing? I'm playing somebody over in Spain. She said, they're probably like 12 years old, you know, or 11 years old, 12 years old. I said, I don't care. I said, I can care less how old they are. Like, I'm spanking them, right? So, you know, I love competition, but I have actually played on FIFA sometimes, and I could just tell from the kickoff that whoever I'm playing with can play. They can play, and they will kick my butt. And I would say, okay, I want to play them again, because the competitive side of me is that I want to get better at this. I want to get better at this. You should think about your podcast in the same way. There are going to be people out there that may have a similar niche with you. They may have a similar topic with you, but guess what? They are not you. So when you collaborate with somebody, it is okay to collaborate and give of yourself to someone else, right? That's the best way for you to excel, is to give of yourself to someone else, to help them further in their cause with their content, with their podcast. One of the best ways for you to be successful is to give of yourself. Create a niche. Create a niche. Create a niche. I know, and I can hear Cher Jones in the audience right now, and she said, "You competitive? Nah, I can't imagine." Yes, I am. But when I say when I talked about creating niche, I know you know, Cher, she always says niche when you're ready to niche, and some people aren't, and that's a great it's a good saying, it's a good perspective, right? You know, until you're ready to niche, then you know, try to figure out what you want. I heard this and I'm completely biting it. Biting is a New York City term for I'm gonna take something that someone else said, and I'm gonna utilize it. You know, so I'm gonna copy. I heard Gary Vee on his podcast. He was at a university, and someone was asking about passion, and the person said, "Well, you know, how do you know when you found your passion?" And Gary Vee said, "You know what? I think a lot of people have know what their passion is, but the issue is that you say that you don't have passion because you don't feel that your passion can make you money." Dude, I mean, you're right. And he's like, no, you, the majority of people know what they're passionate about, right? And know what they want to do. But the tendency is that, well, I can't make money off of this, or I can't live off of this. And I understand that. Right? What I'm doing now, right? I'm still learning all this stuff. I've run businesses and all this other stuff for other people. Now I'm doing it myself, and I'm still learning. And I'm still learning daily on this. This is my passion, though. This retail leadership is my passion, and I'm figuring it out how to make money doing it, right? But it's not going to stop me from going after my passion. Same thing when it comes to a niche, right? When you are able to niche down, you will find that you are passionate about it. I'm actually going to do. I didn't put it up there yet. I'm going to probably put it up there to tomorrow. I want to talk about burnout as it relates to like the content creator. And I may do it Saturday. I may do it another day. But I'm going to tip my hand on this idea around burnout too. Around content creation I don't have enough content, or where do you get your content ideas from? All this, and here's what I got to say about that. Man, if you are struggling to on a day-to-day basis to figure out where you need to get content from, I would hazard a guess that you're doing the wrong thing, that you are talking about the wrong thing. You are not talking about your passion. You're probably talking about a trend. Probably talking about something that someone said that you're actually pretty good at, but you are, you are 6 seasons good enough to talk about that content. When I switched over from The Worthy Podcast to Retail Leadership, and I think I've told the story, I don't know how many times, when I got a coach, and he said, "Hey, let's talk about this retail stuff," and I was like, "Dude, I don't want to do that. I want to do the Worthy Podcast." And he's like, "No, just humor me. Just humor me. Come back next week with 13 episodes. Right? That's a season, right? Come back with 13 episodes." It's like, okay. I came back with 40. I literally came back with 40. And within that 40, about 5 of them were series, right? So the topic that I could have broke down into like 5 or 6 different episodes. So I probably had about 50 to 60 different topics. And the light bulb just went on. And I realized that this is my passion. This is my audience. And not a lot of people, I may not make money off of that passion of retail leadership, right? Super niche. Everybody wants to talk about leadership. I'm talking to a very specific audience. So when I say create your niche, you have to sometimes, find it. You may have to niche when you're ready, but the sooner you can do it and the sooner you can line your niche with your passion, the better off that you are going to be, the better your content will be. Like I said earlier, I got content for not for days, not for months. I got content for years. I really do. I'm not even fronting. I got content. I have to like stop myself. So the one thing that I love about my Wednesday nights is doing this live podcast. The other thing on Saturdays that we do is I love doing it. I love doing the ones on Saturdays is because when I do them on Saturdays, I typically talk about stuff that like in the comments that happened today, or like a topic that just came up like on on a newsletter from a podcasting standpoint that's like super relevant right now. And boom, I could turn that into a training on Saturday. And that helps me with my kind of like spaz idea. And it's a spaz side of Steve, right? So I'm able to do all of that as well. The idea around, being able to create content, you actually have to be able to go deep with your content, and experience will help you with that as well too. What you got going on, Corey? Second. I think some people struggle with understanding how to create a workflow for their content creation process, and it freezes them. Dude, listen to me, man. I'm going. See, you know what? I'm going. I don't have my little bridges over thing. I'm going to mess with you. No, I'm just messing with you, dude. Here's what you do. This is what you do. This right here, this is Apple Notes, right? Right. These are all just ideas, and I call them walk thoughts. So when I was doing a lot of walking, now I'm not doing a lot of walking. I'm just exercising, and so now I should just in my gym. So now I should just change to exercise thoughts. Things come to you when you least expect it. A lot of times we don't write those ideas down. A lot of times we just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? And I'm not saying you got to do every idea, but we have to first capture them, right? You have to first capture the thoughts and things that kind of come to you, right? I used to sleep with a notepad right next to my bed, right? Because sometimes when you're dreaming or you're about to go to sleep, sometimes it happens, right? They often say, and I completely agree, that the best ideas sometimes come in the shower. And you're like, dude, I don't have anything. You know, get your butt out that shower, to have a pen or your phone and type it in, right? You have to capture the ideas first and foremost. And once again, not every idea is going to turn into a full blown concept or podcast or live stream, but at least you're capturing it. The other part about around workflow is because people don't have pillars, right? They don't have three things that they really want to kind of identify that they're going to stand for. And so when it comes to content creation, they just start grabbing stuff and they don't have any, it doesn't have any teeth because it's not vetted, right? It's not vetted. But when you start to have an idea and pillars, right? When you start to see news articles or something in a I won't say newspaper or something online, man, that's when you can start grabbing it and you start to run them through the filters of your pillar. Now it starts to kind of make sense, but you have to spend the time in doing that. A lot of times people don't want to do it because they want to chase the trends. And this is super hot. This is super hot. Listen to me, man. I have heard and I don't even care. I've heard people talk about podcasting and they haven't podcasted a day in their life. They want to tell you how to start a podcast. They haven't done it a day in their life. God bless them. That's cool. Y'all want to do that. But I'm just saying, there's people out there that do the same thing with various topics. And then their audience is like, dude, what are you talking about? Right? So make sure that you are capturing what you have. Create some content pillars, and make sure that you are running them through that. And then the last thing I'll add to this question with Corey that Corey's put up here is around structure of your show, right? So, the structure of your podcast is important to how you deliver your content. Do you start with the problem first, right? The problem or the reason why they need to listen to this podcast. A lot of times people just start out, hey, you know what? This is Steve Worthy. Hey, I'm so glad you're here today. And man, I had a rough day, rough week. And yeah, I'm just out here hanging out. And so not sure. I just want to hop on here today and have a conversation with you about so-and-so. Listen to me, man. I don't know if you have the patience for that. I don't. I am, Corey, man, I got the New York mentality. It's like quick. And there's a lot of people that are like that too. They're like, you got to get them. You got to get them fast because there's too much competition out there for your ears. There's too much competition out there for your eyeballs. And if you don't state why you are relevant quick or why you're here talking about something very quick, right? And I don't mean like, super quick, like right off the bat. You can say hi and hello and all this other stuff, but you got to give them a reason to stay. And part of that issue with content creation, the workflow, is because of the structure that a lot of people don't have as it relates to the podcast, right? You got an issue with your podcast structure, make sure you connect with us. You see the QR code over there too. We got you. We got you covered. Last three. I told you, you know, some people are going to look at this on a replay, and some people who probably, you know, was with us early probably pissed because I waited till the last to drop something like the best jewels. I'm sorry. This is part of the process, right? Focus on quality over quantity. Don't be too attached to the outcome. Keep learning and evolving. Man, I probably could have just did these three and win an hour on these three alone. But focus on quality over quantity. So the story that I just told you earlier about when I read the podcast episode, I was focused on quantity. I wanted to get it out. I wanted to hit that goal that I had for every week. I wanted to right? And couldn't do it. Couldn't do it, man. You had to focus in on quality. You got to focus in on quality. If you don't focus in on quality, then over time, you know, you will be found out. The quality piece around sound, structure, your ability to deliver, your ability to ask engaging questions, your ability to engage with your audience, right? It all has to be quality. It all has to have a brand type associated with it as well, too. These last two, man, don't be too attached to the outcome. Don't be too attached to the outcome, right? My man that I've listened to for years, and I got my first leadership book in 1995, even after in the military and all of that. Hadn't read a leadership book. My pastor, when I lived in Charlotte, Pastor Philip Davis, God bless him, on the golf course gave me my first book, John Maxwell, Developing a Leader Within You. And John Maxwell often talks about, you know, when you win the trophy, put it in the case and get back to work. Right? You know, it's cool to celebrate your wins. Right? But you got to fall in love with the process, and you can't be too attached to the outcome. You got to put it out there. The tendency is that we become so attached to the outcome that we become paralyzed and we don't do anything. Or we continue to do the wrong thing, and we think that we're doing something because we didn't get any feedback or we didn't listen to the feedback, right? But you can't be too attached to the outcome, right? When I put a podcast episode out, boom, it's done. I'm on to the next, because I know I had to build up the muscle and I had to build up the bandwidth for the podcast in order for people to actually hear it. So we pump them out, but the quality is so much better now than it was, you know, years ago, that we're really not attached to the outcome. We're attached to the content and how the content serves the audience. Period. When you can have a mindset like that, like tonight, right? I know people come in, drop off. People come in, people drop off. I'm cool with that. My goal is to present the content, and hopefully and ideally it resonates with you in some form or fashion, and then you can take it and move forward, and you are better for it, right? Last one, keep learning and evolving. Keep learning and evolving. I didn't think I needed a coach until I got one, whether it was podcasting and whether it was in leadership. They were able to teach me things and show me things that I didn't know about myself, that I thought I knew, but I really didn't know. I took a couple of voiceover classes about 2 years ago, learning how to utilize my voice, you know, different ways, how to communicate with my voice, you know. So for me, I have invested in myself. I've invested in this craft. And I think if you want to get better, the goal is for you to invest in yourself, is to invest in this. For some, it's a hobby. I get it. I completely understand it. But once again, if it's just a hobby, don't get too upset when you don't get the outcomes that you desired, right? That's cool if it's a hobby. But if you want to really turn this into a passion and you want to really truly help people, invest in yourself, take the time so that you can learn more about this craft and who you are so that you can deliver some of the best content that's out there. And I can't leave you guys without talking about one segment of my show, which is the North Star. I can't leave you guys out. I cannot do this because I would not be Steve Worthy if I did this. Podcasting is a craft that requires personal and financial investment for success. It just does. You cannot get better without investing in yourself, without investing in the craft. And it's not just monetary, but it's also it's time-wise. Listening to other podcasts, listening to live streams, right? You have to invest the time. You have to invest the money if you want to get better equipment. If you want a better studio, if you want a better sound, there are investments to make. It's just the truth. This is not a sales tactic. And as somebody who has been doing this since 2007, and I understand every time I wanted to get better, I had to make a certain improvement. And part of those improvements required some type of financial investment in order for me to get improvement. When I did the voiceover lessons, right, I felt like I got a pretty decent voice, right? But I invested the money so that way I can actually learn how to use this voice a lot better than I was previously as well, too. Last piece, create a podcast that resonates with your audience. It keeps them coming back for more. You got to do that. Hopefully the tips that you are talking that I've talked about tonight will help you and help you understand that you have to create a podcast that's going to resonate with people and keeps them coming back. And I think this is my very last point, a couple last points. Here's the how. Know your audience and create content that speaks to them. Build a strong online presence. Invest in high quality equipment where possible. Invest in professional development. Period. Point blank. Period. What's going? You have to invest in providing a great experience. 100%. 100%. 100%. Woo! Yo, man, oh man. I know that was a lot. But I hope you were able to take something out of this tonight. I really hope you were able to take something out of this. Next week. So I know we talked about podcasting. So I'm gonna be doing 21 live streaming tips, next week, because while there are some similarities, of course, with podcasting from an audio standpoint, different things. There are a whole bunch of things from a live streaming standpoint that I want to share, that I want you to know, that you have to learn, and you have to put in your repertoire, right? And if you don't do it, then you're going to continue to get the results that you're getting. My goal is always that you are taking this content and taking the things that we talk about and that you are utilizing them for your benefit so that you can grow your audience, grow your experience, and just grow as a person. Because podcasting and live streaming, I'm telling you, these are two of the best mediums that are out there to connect and grow and engage with your audience. But more importantly, to help people, right? This is why we do this, right? This isn't, right? This is why we do this, right? God has blessed me beyond belief. I got an amazing studio here, right? Part of it is that is the authority factor that I want to make sure that I'm practicing what I'm preaching, right? I put a lot of time and sweat into this because I love the process. I love studios. I love cameras. I love this. I love everything that I do. It is a passion of mine. It is something I truly feel that I've been called to do. And so I want the experience that I provide for you to feel that same way. Because I want to help you. I want you to get better. I want you to fall in love with whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's podcasting, retail leadership, live streaming, or whatever it may be. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your comments and your engagement. I'm gonna. If you have a question or one last comment, please go ahead and put it in there because I want to make sure that I answer any questions or any things that you may want to share before I leave. If you are looking at this on a replay and you've gone back through and some of these tips, you're like, dude, that's dope. I love that one. Or could you explain a little bit more on this tip? Please go ahead and put it in there. I will not hesitate to make sure that I add some value to whatever it is that you are concerned with as well too. All right. It's 8:35, an hour and a half. That's not bad. I've been on live streams for live streams that were 3 or 4 hours or whatever too. So what's going on? What's going on, man? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, Enrique. All right. Good people. It's been a while. I've been here for a while. 21 tips. I hope you are able to take some of these and actually execute on them. I want to know what some of the tips that kind of stood out to you. What's one of the tips that you are thinking about doing and that you're going to implement tomorrow, based off of this podcast. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night and God bless.